Hi, welcome to What's the Word? I'm your host, Jaime McFaden, and I'm so excited to have you here. This podcast is about all things wellness. Each week, we will focus on a word of the day, and I interview some of the most inspirational people I know and share that inspiration with you. Join me, let's learn together on What's the Word.
This is the place where I belong.
Hi, welcome to What's the Word? I'm your host, Jaime McFaden, and this podcast is about all things wellness. Each week, we focus on a word of the day. And to kick it off today, our word is one of my favorites, vitality, which means the state of being strong and active, otherwise known as energy. And what better way to kick things off than to be interviewing one of my favorite vitality doctors and experts, Dr. Allan Mishar, who is orthopedic surgeon at Stanford and has started the vitality movement. How are you doing, Dr. Allan? And I want to hear from you right out the gate. Why did you pick that word?
So thank you so much, Jaime. I really appreciate being on your podcast, and I'm really excited to talk about my favorite word, vitality. And so I'll start with a question and a story. So my question is, has anybody ever taught you how to be vital?
It's a great question. I would say my vitality teacher has been Elaine Lillane, Jack Lalanne's wife.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
And she's been a really great vitality.
Is she still alive?
She just had her 95th birthday. She still does her push-ups and her swims every day. And she is the epitome, I would say, of how when I define vitality, I think about her.
Oh my God, I want to meet her. Is she in the Bay Area or where is she?
She's down in like San Luis Obispo area.
Oh, wow. We got to talk to her together sometime.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to her. So the question I had is something that literally almost exactly 5 years ago is when I started studying vitality. And I don't know if you've heard the story of how I got into it, but the story is this. So I've always wanted to go to Australia. It was like a trip of a lifetime for me. And I got invited to speak at a meeting in Hong Kong. And Australia and Hong Kong are not exactly close, okay? But in July, my family did not want to go to Hong Kong because Hong Kong is like 100,000 degrees and super humid. So they said, well, maybe we'll go with you for a week or two before you go to Hong Kong. But we started in Australia. And we planned a 2-week trip, Sydney and a place called Uluru, which is in the middle of the Australian outback. And we finished the place I always wanted to go, which was the Great Barrier Reef. I wanted to go scuba diving and snorkeling, and it's as good or better than you ever imagine, right? So at the end of this trip, we were in a small town called Port Douglas, which is in northern Australia, and it's right near the Great Barrier Reef. And there was this beach called the 4 Mile Beach. And each morning I would get up and I'd run about 2 miles down the beach. I'd take a swim into the Coral Sea, which was further out where the Great Barrier Reef is. Swim back and then run 2 miles back towards this tall palm tree. And I was just wearing swim trunks, no shirt, no socks, no shoes. And as a former track guy, I was like hearing the Chariots of Fire theme song as I splashed in the water with my feet, thinking I was, feeling really great. And then the last day we were there, I'm standing under this palm tree, and it's just an incredible day. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel vital. And then I had this weird thought in the back of my head. I said, I'm going to understand what that word means. And 5 years later, I'm still studying it, but I spent about a year or two looking for biomarkers for vitality. As you know, I'm an orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine specialist. And I thought, okay, I'm going to find this holy grail. Is it in your blood? Is it in your bone marrow? Is it your heart rate variability, your salivary cortisol, your genomics, your microbiome? I did it all. I could experiment on myself. And after a couple of years of this, 18 months approximately, I realized vitality isn't obviously just your biologic vitality. It's a combination of your physical, mental, social, and spiritual wellness. And I had been taking notes, and I continue to take notes. I've been writing every single day now for almost 3 years. And I had 400 pages of manuscript, and I started sending out chapters of this manuscript to a variety of people. And this is a true story. It ended up in a very influential book agent's hands in New York City. And he said, listen, next time you're in New York, I'd love to meet you. And also, true story, it was my daughter's senior year in high school. And we had already planned a trip 10 days later to go to New York City. And so
Wow.
I said, how about 10 days from now? And he said, how about noon or 1 o'clock? I forget. It was sometime early afternoon. It might've been 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so it was in the Flatiron District of New York, where all the big
Mhm.
time New York literary agents are. And true story is, we got there and I brought my daughter with me. I didn't want to leave a 17-year-old running around New York City by herself. And I don't want to name names here, but the person was the lead agent at this very influential book agent. And he said to me, this is amazing. And I really want to work with you. And over the course of the next couple of years, he really helped me tremendously. And then we were in the process of trying to figure out what to do with the book when the pandemic hit last year.
Right.
And I had been in consultation with a variety of other people, and no offense to me, but nobody was going to read my 400-page tome of vitality ideas. And somebody suggested to me that I boil it down to 100 pages, and it worked out perfectly, because the other part of the journey is I applied to and now teach a course at Stanford called Vitality Essentials, and it's become the course book for that course that I teach. And actually I have it here. I'm so proud of this.
Yay!
It took me
I
so
know.
long
So
to
actually,
get
let
that.
me know, where do I order it from? From your
So
website?
you can find Vitality Essentials on Amazon. Again,
Okay.
it's about 100 pages, but it's more of a workbook than like a
Mhm.
nonfiction book. So it's what I've realized. I think my idea on vitality is not to try and use a long narrative to try and help people get better. It's to try and use scientific information coupled with specific actionable things to do.
Right.
And that's what the book is. So it's more, some people might be disappointed if they're looking for a really long narrative tome, but if they're looking for ways to really enhance their vitality, it's, I think, a pretty interesting idea to try to use specific ideas to help people and give them assignments. So it's
I
definitely.
love that. Well, I love the fact of taking something that is, yes, you can go into the depths and the deep dive, literally, of the Great Barrier Reef, and to figuring out and really getting into vitality. And I think that that's beautiful when somebody has the foundation of what it is and what they're doing. But I think having this workbook and having the course that you offer, and now do you offer this course multiple times throughout the year, or is it once a year?
So Stanford, I've done it twice a year for the last few years. And, you can find, I think we're going to do it again in April of this year. There's a
Great.
few spots left. If people want to go to daretobevital.com, they can find the link to registration for the Stanford Vitality Essentials course. But it's grown bigger than that. And then what you and I have learned as we've gotten to know each other a little bit on Clubhouse is trying to understand what are the components of your vitality. What are the things you can do to enhance your vitality? I'll try out my definition on you. So,
Yes.
so vitality is purposeful, vigorous, and connected living. Vitality is
Mm.
purposeful, vigorous, and connected living. And we just finished talking about how connection is really important, or closeness is really important. But it took me a couple of years to come up with that. And then as I lean into those, I chose each word very carefully. And purpose is something we need to spend more time working on. I call it pinpointing your peak purpose. And I have specific ways. I call it the how of your why. So we know
Right.
that why is important, but how do you get there? And so what I teach people is the how. And the second, there's other components of that, such as thinking with time in mind, how to do time management, or stockpiling health. And that's squarely in what you're doing. And, I've come up with these little phrases that, frankly, my book agent wasn't super happy with, things like, stockpiling health, or, exercising relentlessly. But I do think some of these phrases resonate with people because they can remember them.
Yeah,
And
I was gonna say they stick.
they stick a little bit, and then they're ideas that are supposed to be connected to some actions, which we talked about just today in terms
Mhm.
of how to cultivate your closeness. And this is just wonderful to do this and to speak with you about something I'm really passionate about, and that is, I had to boil down my own purpose to 8 words or less, which is what I teach people to do, and that is to enhance global vitality one person at a time. And it used to be just enhance global vitality because it was kind of an audacious goal. And then when I put that little comma and said one person at a time, it made me realize that that's the key. That's the
Mhm.
absolute key, is if you can reach, if this podcast reaches just one person and we can figure out how to enhance their vitality, I will have executed on my mission. I know it will reach many, many more, but that's my goal.
No, but I love that, and I love just the 8 words. There's been so many things that I have already myself learned from you. You taught me about the energy angels, and it's something I kind of knew, but I never put a word to it. I always knew my energy vampires. And with that being said, when we talk about the word vitality, and I think for anyone that's listening, and I know my audience fairly well, is right now we're going through this, crazy time in the world, and you've brought up the epidemic of inactivity. And I also want to touch into the epidemic of mental health and mental illness, really. And so when we talk about vitality, what are kind of some simple, for someone that's listening, let's say that someone's listening right now and they're like, okay, I like this, but I'm just feeling really, or I'm not in the mood, or I'm feeling down. Is there something that you can share, just a simple kind of pick me up, for having a little bit, just a smidge of vitality when you're feeling blue?
You're going to love this one because I know it's right in your wheelhouse. And that
Okay.
is to, wait for it, #move now. Okay.
Yeah.
So I need like that. So sometimes we just get stuck in a rut, and that's a lot of what's going on. And the pandemic has been horrific, terrible consequences from life and loss of all kinds of different things. But there's also been the epidemic of inactivity, the epidemic of loneliness, the epidemic of mental illness. And it's sometimes just brutally hard just to get moving. And if you get moving, take a walk around your dining room table, go up and down one flight of stairs, just walk around the block once, you're going to unlock your brain a little bit. Okay. So if you think about some really amazing people that were trying to solve problems like Einstein or Gandhi or even Beethoven, there's data that suggests, and lots of anecdotes that suggest, they would just take a walk. So walking can help your physical vitality, but it'll also help your mental vitality. The second tip I have for people is just to pause and think with time in mind. And now we have, actually, ironically, a little more time than we did, because we may not be commuting, or we may, we've maybe gone too far down the line in things we're watching on TV that aren't really very good. But take 15 minutes when you can, and think about how you're going to spend your time. Okay.
Right.
So how many times do we actually spend time thinking about how we're going to spend our time? And you're like, that's sort of meta, right? All right. But the version of that is super important. So every single day I spend between 10 and 15 minutes reviewing my to-do list, crossing and revising it, and trying to say, okay, is that really that important? And when you do that, and you get that habit of thinking with time in mind and reviewing how you're going to spend your precious time, and your time is your most precious non-renewable resource. I'll say that one more time. Time is your most precious non-renewable resource. So don't waste a second. So those are my 2 tips. Number 1, move now. And number 2, think with time in mind. And we could talk more about the time version of that, because I think there's lots of different things if you're interested.
Yes. Well, and I also want to tap into as well, because of the people that reach out to me that, let's say, are going through some really tough times, and maybe whether they lost someone during this time, or whether they've lost their job, or whether they just feel lonely and isolated, and all these different things. A common thing that I've heard is there's almost like a shame associated to either asking for help or getting started, or they're kind of feeling guilty of, oh, well, I don't want to burden anyone else, to ask for help or to ask for these things. And I feel like you and I have a common goal that we want to help one person at a time. So I open my, DMs and things like that, where I do my best to reach out, like reach back if somebody reaches out to me, give them just a positive word of affirmation or something, to shed some light on maybe a really dark time. So with that being said, just globally, from what you've seen in your own world and your audience, what about for that person that's listening right now, that's like really on the verge of just that dark place, and they're like, yeah, I'd love to get up and move, but I can't, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not even there yet. How do we pull them in and maybe hold their hand instead of push, right? Like, how do we, do you have any good tips for that?
Massive disclaimer here, though, Jamie. I am an orthopedic surgeon, not a real mental health expert. So if you are in serious issues, reach out to the closest person, or call a number where you can get immediate help.
Right.
But I think if you're beyond that and you're kind of just stuck, if I may be blunt, it is sometimes we have to stop feeling sorry for ourselves. We have to just admit that it is not right, admit that we're in a lot of pain, but admit also that we can help ourselves. So that's the
Right.
theme of almost everything I do, which is something that pervades the book, the courses, and my life, is that my thesis is that vitality is a skill. Okay, it's not something I can't give it to you. I can't give it
Right.
to my kids, I can't give it to my patients. I can't give it, your government can't give it to you, your mom can't give it to you. It's something you earn by making better choices with your time, talent, and treasure. So these are things that I have resonated in webinars across lots of large, medium, and small organizations like, Google and Apple and various places at Stanford and the University of Michigan. And when you start to call people out gently, okay, and not in a mean way. And again, if
Right.
people need serious help, dial
Of
911,
course.
dial your suicide hotlines. But if you take a look in the mirror and you can say, listen, I got to be more responsible for my own life,
Right.
it changes the game. So I ask my patients a snarky question. Can I ask you a snarky question here?
Please.
So it's like, do you want to be treated well or do you want to be treated optimally? And then they tilt their head like a
Yeah,
Labrador,
I just did that. I was like, well, yeah.
like my lab. If you say the word cookie,
Yeah.
she tilts her head.
Huh?
Cookie or
Yeah.
squirrel, and
Mhm.
and then they go optimally, and they go, well, here's the deal. My job is to treat you as well as I possibly can. I will always
Right.
treat you as well as I can. In order to treat you optimally, you have to participate in your care. And they go, what? And I go, I'll say that again. In order to be treated
Mhm.
optimally, you have to participate in your care. The extension is if you want to have an optimal life, or what I call living in the vitality zone. I could
Mhm.
go on forever, as you might imagine, but a lot of us are slip sliding from the sliding zone to the surviving zone to the burnout zone. The way to crawl back out of that abyss is to stare into the abyss. This is a little, again, philosophy, and it'll stare back at you, but then say, listen, I got to try to, what can I do? There's
Mhm.
something we are in control of that, maybe nothing, maybe, there's people who have zero control, but if you have some control of anything in your life, take ownership over that. And as you
Yeah.
start to take ownership over it, your sense of self-esteem is going to rise because you're
Mhm.
betting on yourself. And then you can silence that
Mhm.
voice of judgment in your head that's telling you can't do it. And as soon as you get on this little upward spiral, I call it the little engine that could, it's my favorite
I
book,
love that book.
the little blue engine that could. I think I can, and it gets it, to the top of the mountain, and it's on your glide path downward. So I hope I can inspire people to become their best possible selves. I struggle with things every single day. I
So
struggle.
what do you struggle with? Because I was going to actually bring up right now. So we talked about, some of my listeners are really going through some big tough life changes, right? And then others are just they are riding that big old train to get somewhere right now, and they're focused on the future always, and they're just go go go. And I think you and I sometimes, if I'm not mistaken, I know myself, I have to remind myself, oh, sit down. Oh, it's time to relax a little bit, because I'm like, okay, let's keep going. Let's keep this vitality train going. So where do you struggle? Just to be honest and open about it, because I think that's so great too.
Well, of course, I mean, we all have issues that we've had to deal with in our past. I think I shared with you, and I've shared with other people, I lost my mom when I was 9 years old to a brain tumor. I grew up with virtually nothing. Nobody handed me what I've been able to achieve as a doctor or whatever I'm doing. But I think the other thing is, as we go through life trying to understand how we can, what I call, pinpoint or execute on our peak purpose, we need to pause to nourish ourselves every single day. And I forget that every single day. You need to nourish yourself, not just like with water, which is great, or
Right.
appropriate food. I mean, in general, obviously your diet matters, but I mean by taking tranquility timeouts, putting
Hmm.
this evil little device away for a while. Your phone. I was holding up your
Yeah.
phone for people who are
The
listening.
slot machine. Oh yeah, for anyone that's listening and not watching, it's our slot machine.
Yeah. And then, taking a look at your spirituality, taking a look at how you're trying to help your community. We forget that serving other people is a massively valuable way of enhancing your vitality. So this other thing I like to say is, if you serve in a meaningful way every day, you will have a meaningful life. Okay.
Yes.
So seek to serve. And so that means giving up a little bit of your time. That means giving up a little bit of your bandwidth, but also protecting some of that. And the way to protect your time is difficult, but you need to be an editor. You need to be ruthless with your time. So that means eliminating what you do not want to be or what you don't want to be so that you can become what you can be. So eliminate what you're not to become what you are or want to be. Eliminate what you're not to become what you want to be. And so that's hard. So like I really try to avoid whining and gossiping. Okay. I love to whine. Believe me, just ask my wife. Okay, especially if I got a cold. I haven't had a cold in more
I
than
was
a
gonna say,
year.
what kind of things do you whine about?
Oh my God, I'm a champion whiner. Okay, but nobody cares. Okay, so and then everybody loves to chew on gossip. Okay, it's terrible, right? But everybody loves to chew on gossip. So, and I'm guilty of gossiping and whining all the time. But I try to say, look, there's no value in either one of those. If you're going to whine, come up with a solution. So you may have a problem. All of us have problems. So here's the problem. Here's a solution. And then seek. We talked about this earlier today on Clubhouse, and that is one of the ways to cultivate closeness that I need to continue to be better at is to forgive those friends and family in your life that maybe have not done you right. Because you certainly, not you, but me for sure,
Of course.
have
I
done
have too.
things wrong all the time, and you would like to be forgiven for what you've done. And that's a bridge, because at the end of the day, at the final analysis, it's not about how much you've achieved. It's not about how much money you have. Not even really maybe how many books or other articles or things you've done. Maybe even not, for me, how many patients I've operated on. It's the connections you've made with other people that are going to matter the most.
Amen to that. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I feel such an energetic place where, like you and I, for example, we met through an app Clubhouse where we discuss all sorts of subjects, and lo and behold, finding out that we don't live even far away from each other, and this is a global app. Like there's something to me about vitality there where it's almost aligning with our flow, right? So like for me, I'm aligned in my world with what I'm doing, and all of a sudden I meet you and I meet our the family that we've kind of curated on Clubhouse, and we all have a similar mission to help each other and to help others, right? And to grow better together and to live a more vital, beautiful, sensational life. Thinking about, like you said, time and mind. It's one thing, like these kind of conversations, I could talk with you for hours, and I can't wait to talk more about this. And I'm certain that anyone that's listening or watching this is so excited for hopefully a part 2, because everything that you're sharing right now, you have studied, you have researched, you have done the work, you have continue to do the work. And here you are sharing it and giving back to the world in a way that you don't have to do this with your time. And you and I both know that. But for anyone that is listening, I am certain that I will be getting messages saying, wow, I got this. This was the takeaway. And I know that that's why you and I do this. So with that being said, I just, first of all, want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for everything that you give to this world, to your family, to yourself, to the community, and to people like me who just appear in your life, and now you can't get rid of me.
No. It's amazing, Jamie, that we've connected, and then I think the two of us can help bring more people together, and then the community of people that want to enhance other people's vitality and wellness is a wonderful community to belong to. And I know that we can do much better together than we could separately. And so I've studied flow, and there's a lot of psychological research on flow, and athletes or scientists or anybody who's trying to get into that state of flow. I have a perspective on that, and that perspective is I'm allergic to the words wellness and happiness. Okay, it's not that I don't want to be happy or that I don't want to be well, but I think that wellness, happiness, and joy are the byproduct of pursuing your peak purpose and executing on it. And I can tell you that this is a perfect example of it. So I love doing what we're doing right now. I'm happy, I'm joyful, I'm well. And the reason why is because I hope that we're doing something that's going to help enhance the vitality of somebody. So if I were just solely pursuing happiness or wellness or even joy, those are just transient things that happen, but you want to spend more and more of your time enjoying that. And that's what I call the vitality zone. So this is a lifelong project of mine. I'm 5 years into it. I never thought, after being an orthopedic surgeon for a long period of time, that I could find something that I could do for the rest of my life. But, if I'm only 5 years into it, I can imagine what I'm going to be like in 5 more years in terms of understanding it and trying to share it with the world on a variety of platforms, and really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. It's such a joy.
Well, you are such a joy, and I actually am going to order your book and hopefully take one of those 5 slots that you have left in your course so that I can learn more about this and really also do my part to share and give back. So I want to thank you.
Fabulous, Jamie.
I'm going to. Yeah.
Part of being in part of the class is there's like a group of alumni now who have been through the class, who've connected with each other. And I'll send you an invite. We have something called Vitality Explorers, which is a small group of people who are helping each other online become more vital. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
I love this. Well, before I let you go, because I know we have a hard stop, but just for the fun of it, with every guest, I do a speed round. It's quick. This is for your subconscious mind to just go with it. So are you ready for it?
Fire away.
Pizza or tacos?
Pizza.
Least favorite exercise?
Stretching, hamstring stretching.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about that later too. Your go-to karaoke or dance song?
Got a couple of theirs. I do, confession here, I spent 10 years in church choir, so I do like karaoke. All right. So probably an Eagles song, name it. I probably can do 3 or 4 of them, but I love it. My dad literally played piano when I was a kid growing up, and I knew every Eagles, Billy Joel, and Elton John song like to the T. Yeah, so I agree with you there. I love that. Is there anything that you are afraid of? I'm afraid of not doing the best I possibly can. I really am. I mean, I wake up so energized right now because I do think I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And I just want to make sure I do the absolute best. And that's a crucial thing, Jamie, is that, as I've said a few times, in order to do the best, I need to pause and be able to take timeouts for myself. I have to eat my own dog food, and I don't always do that, right? I don't think you do either.
No, remember yesterday or the other day it was 2 p.m. and I was like, I got to eat really quick, or 1 p.m.
Yeah,
and you're like,
just
what?
make sure you take care of yourself a little bit. So it's like, put your own oxygen mask on. But again, I just think this, especially coming out of the pandemic, there's a lot of people who need to kind of think about reorienting their purpose. So their purpose last year might have been just to survive, and maybe they got COVID, maybe they lost their job, maybe they had a family member or a friend who passed away. And so your purpose is your most important modifiable vitality asset. Remember, time is your most precious non-renewable asset, but your purpose can change. So I implore people maybe who are listening to this to try to take out a piece of paper and think about what their peak purpose could be. Again, I think my goal in life is, if I can enhance the vitality of as many people as possible, the rest of the world is going to get to be more vital. So that's my purpose and my goal with partially with speaking with you today. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. I honor you. I appreciate and respect you. Thank you again for coming on today. Friends, this is What's the Word. I'm so thankful to have Dr. Allan Mishar here. Be sure to check him out. I'll be dropping links so you can follow him. You can check out his book and also hopefully join one of his courses and or some of his rooms on Clubhouse. With that being said, I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Jamie, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining me here at What's the Word. Follow us on social media with the links on the screen, and don't forget to like and share with your friend. Your support helps us grow and continue to make inspirational content. See you next time on What's the Word.